அனைவருக்கும் என்னுடைய அன்பான மதிய வணக்கம். Respected ladies and gentlemen, you all have traveled far and wide to come to this place, to come to this very beautiful occasion. It is always a great pleasure for all of us to join together to talk about our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji. There is no greater honor than talking about this great man for the last 9 years, the transformation he has brought to our country. Before I get into that, it is my duty to compliment the overseas friends of BJP, the kind of active and the dynamic work it is doing outside our country. It is making sure whatever work is happening in the country is getting accelerated at the global level. I take this opportunity to humbly thank Kuldeep Shekhawat ji, who is the President of Overseas Friends of BJP UK, and the General Secretary Suresh Mangal ji, and the Overseas Friends of UK BJP Tamil Nadu chapter, Dr. Varadarajan ji, and all the eminent citizens who have come here from different parts of our country and very patiently waiting for the last 2-3 hours. The reason I came here very quickly to take the mic is I don't want Akka to say any more words about me. The reason is I clearly know I don't truly deserve any of that. We are like small stars that is staying in our position, and the biggest sun is our Narendra Modi ji. And it is a privilege for all of us to serve, to strengthen, to honor the kind of work that he is doing for our country. Before getting into what Modi ji has done, many of you know, you are all reading newspapers, you all follow him in TV, and many of you very patiently watch his Twitter, his social media, and every single thing about Modi ji, even thousands of miles away, you follow. It is not necessary for me to come from India and the party Karyakarta to come and talk. But still, I thought I'm going to present you very diverse perspectives about what is truly happening in our country, what is happening at the ground level, and what is the kind of change that India is undergoing through, and possibly in the next 10 years where our country will be. 1750, many eras back, it is the time the Industrial Revolution truly kicked in. Before that, before 1750, when the Industrial Revolution arrived, the share of India in the global GDP was about 23%. India was a very dynamic country, and 23% share in the global GDP is just not a joke, especially even when there are very powerful countries in the world. But very unfortunately, after the Industrial Revolution kicked in, India remained a mute spectator for many years after that. The steam engine, after it was invented, for the steam engine to get into India, it took 81 years. Electricity, after it was invented, for electricity to come into India, it took 78 years. Passenger cars, after it started plying the roads of America and UK, it took 72 years to enter into India. The reason I'm trying to say this in front of you is because after 1750, when many countries in the world started fully utilizing the era of Industrial Revolution, started climbing up the ladders, brought in unimaginable prosperity to their citizens, started growing very rapidly in the world, countries like UK, countries like US, most of the European countries. And India very sadly remained a mute spectator. Even before the Industrial Revolution, as we spoke, 23% of the world's GDP was with India. Countries like UK, that point of time, especially East India Company, they chose to use countries like India more as a source of raw material supplier to the major industries that were settled in this part of the UK. After 2014, till now, 2023, we can very clearly say the 9 years of our country, it is not very ordinary 9 years. It is an epoch. It is an era. And this will come once in 250 years. What Industrial Revolution was in 1750, after that we can't say any great thing about technological revolution that happened. Minor revolutions happened. After 1750, if you are talking of an era, truly magically, an era is shifting. It is going to be that 9 years which has shifted India to a very different path. With numbers we will argue in the next 1 hour why I am trying to make that particular point. 2020, 21, 22, these are the times of COVID. We have seen even before, when the diseases were part of this world, the kind of vaccines India will get. Encephalitis, when it happened, India got the vaccine many decades back. Polio, 1955, the vaccines were founded for polio in 1955. The first polio vaccine in India entered 23 years later in 1978. So these are the kind of changes that was happening before 2014. 2020, February, March, COVID. None of us were sure what to do because it is the single biggest threat to humanity possibly in the last 100 years, especially after Spanish flu. Eminent doctors like Aryaji are sitting in the front row. Normally when this kind of big diseases come, massive epidemic diseases come, we look up to the West, we look up to Americans, we look up to British, we look up to the Europeans. And immediately the government of India and other governments would try and do deals with them, try and negotiate with them, arguing, please send me vaccines as fast as possible. Please don't put any export control orders on this company so that I get the vaccines first. Now, the COVID era is truly the time when we as Indians, most of the global people, have truly understood the potential of our country. We never went to any country. We never asked for any vaccine. As on today, 220 crore dose of made in India vaccines manufactured by our own country's ability, invented by our scientists, right up to the last mile door delivery by our primary health centers, and more than that, the kind of digitization we brought into the whole process, tracking, right from the certificates to your cell phone, right from the reminder, in a country like India with 142 crore people, this is not an ordinary measure. As the last count, 220 crore vaccines, completely by our own invention. The Indian Air Force plane lifting the vaccines either in Pune or in Hyderabad, flying to all across the country, landing in that airport, shifting it to the state government, vaccines traveling through the railway network, maintained 4 degree, 5 degree, 6 degree Celsius, all the way to the primary health center and delivered right at the doorstep. This is one example where we can very proudly say to the whole world how India has managed COVID. In fact, the World Health Organization has gone to the extent of calling India's management of COVID as the very best management of COVID that has happened across the world. And it is a case study the Harvard Business School has taken to study the India's model of delivering vaccines. But we are not very proud about that. We all know India's ability. That's how we were. We don't want anybody to come and teach us what is our ability. We always had ability. We always had technology. We always had the human potential. We shown to the world in a time of crisis what we are capable. But what brings us pride as Indians is when the whole world, the so-called superpowers were hoarding vaccines, trying to keep vaccines, extra stock, asking the multinational companies not to give vaccines outside, we delivered vaccines at the peak of COVID to 98 countries, 235 million doses. The gentleman who were talking in the stage, he mentioned about the word called Vasudeva Kudumbakam. Now the Prime Minister, Honorable Narendra Modi ji, uses the word called the world is one. In the United Nations headquarters he spoke, and not only that, in multiple occasions he has spoken. In a crisis, in a peak of world crisis, we have shown the world what Bharat is all about. Not only do we take care of ourselves, we also have the ability to take care of our friends, because we never saw geographical boundary as an impediment. We never saw the world politics as binary. We never saw the world politics as friends and enemies. We saw the world as one. We saw the world as our primary duty as part of the Bharatiya civilization to rush to their doorstep to help. That is why when the Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji visited Papua New Guinea recently, the Prime Minister of this country, Mr. James Marape, in front of the whole camera, in front of the world stage, he chose to touch our Prime Minister's leg. It is not that India is trying to be a big brother. That symbolized very clearly the kind of respect a country like Papua New Guinea, struck between global powers like China, Americans and the Russians for a long time, just being grateful for India did during the peak of COVID. Next day, in the following day, in the press conference, the Prime Minister James Marape said, my duty to thank the Indian population, because at the peak of COVID, when all of us were struggling for vaccines, not knowing what is going to happen to our senior people, India chose to deliver vaccines to us. It is my gratitude to India that I chose to honor the Prime Minister by touching his feet. Have you seen this happening anywhere in this world? It happened there. 235 million, 23.5 crore vaccines delivered to 98 countries at the peak of COVID. That is why when Aryaji was mentioning in the United Nations, when Prime Minister chose to go to UN 4 days back, He wanted to perform yoga there, International Day of Yoga on June 21. The Guinness Book of World Record chose to give a certificate to the Indian embassy there. They said, this is the first time in the whole planet, largest number of countries have participated in a single occasion, more than 100 countries doing yoga with Prime Minister. And many small countries who have chosen to come to the global stage and stand along with India, right in UN, right in different world forums, is simply because of our vaccine Maitri that we have undertaken, just caring about the whole world as Vasudeva Kudumbakam. Many people, many friends in India, especially our opposition friends, keep asking, the Prime Minister is going to different parts of the world, the Prime Minister has visited many countries, the Prime Minister has engaged the Indian diaspora. What is the net effect of India the Prime Minister is going to bring? If you look at the statistics one after the other, we can very clearly see how the global diaspora, people like you, friends like you, brothers and sisters like you, senior citizens like you, as proud Bharatiyas, where your heart still beats for India, even living abroad many miles away, because of you, the kind of brand India is able to build in the global stage is phenomenal. It's a brand we have built, it's a true brand we have built. That is why when the Prime Minister has chosen to go to the American trip this time, unprecedented welcome he got. Complete state visit, they have taken the visit to a different platform, possibly like they said, the first Prime Minister and the fourth global leader after World War II to address the Congress twice. Like they said, 14 times standing ovation, more than 75 times clapping, people waiting in the queue to take a picture, and more importantly from Elon Musk to Rad Dalio to all the great people, the writers, the literary giants, the industry CEOs, every single person waiting to meet our Honorable PM and believing in the global opportunity that India is going to show. This is only happening because, for two reasons. One, what is happening inside the country. Two, what is happening outside the country. There are two things that is happening. Right inside the country, something is happening. Right outside the country, something is happening. That is why all these global giants, they are choosing to line up to come to India, be a part of the India's growth story that is just taking off, that is going to be a miraculous transformation in the next 25 years till 2047. What our Honorable Prime Minister calls the Amrit Kal of India. The Amrita Kalam, or the best time for India after many centuries, is going to be 2022 to 2047. So everybody is waiting to see what is going to happen. Like we said, we missed the Industrial Revolution bus. Countries have become bigger and India just chose to wait. Computers, like I said, passengers came late. Like I said, vaccines came late. Like I said, even a very simple thing as a computer, it entered India 22 years after the first computer was powered in US. Cell phones came 5 to 7 years later. Now, this is the era of digitization. Like how Industrial Revolution happened, many countries chose to be the forefront of Industrial Revolution. The whole world knows this era of digitization, India is a world leader. That is why Mr. Sundar Pichai from Google, he mentioned the kind of digitization that is happening in India, that is being taken to the world by the Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, it is far ahead of its time. It is much ahead of thinking. This is coming from a company which is more powerful than 90% of the world countries combined. That company CEO has chosen to use this word. The Prime Minister's thinking of digitization is far ahead of its time, especially for the kind of platform it's living. 2022-2023, if you look at the combined year that we just passed through, 40% of the world's digital transaction happened in one country, in our country, in India. 105 billion individual digital transactions happened in our country. Not only that, right from payment gateway to every single UPI, India has invented a methodology of its own, which is being copied by all the world countries. The G20, India is the chair now for this year, president of G20. And one of the very important contribution of India to the G20 for the whole year is, we are trying to teach all the 20 top countries in the world how India has become a master in digitization, and the other countries, we want other countries to learn from us what is the India's success in digitization. Very clearly, some of these friends have understood this era is going to be digitization, and India is far ahead of everything. But to reach here was not easy for us. A country in 1947 when we got independence, Winston Churchill, who was the Prime Minister here, mentioned that India is no more than an equator. India is no more than an equator. If equator is a line, likewise India is also a line. And he predicted the kind of independence that India was given, India will not last more than 10 to 15 years because of the kind of tensions we had, the kind of languages we spoke, the kind of dissimilarity we had among ourselves, the kind of connection that happened, that was there between North and South, East and West. Great statesmen like Winston Churchill chose to predict that India's independence might not last more than 10 to 15 years. Of course, we had our own share of challenges. We always had some issue happening in Kashmir and Punjab, in the southern parts of India, in the northeastern regions of India. We had major challenges of terrorism, we had major challenges of Maoism, we had major challenges of fight based on languages, fight based on states' border. We had major challenges. Every single challenge, whatever the world faced, India faced in the last 75 years. So we have crossed everything. Then 2014 came. 2014 is a very important year because that is the very first time the whole population of India started chanting Modi's name. Right from 2012, everybody started speaking about the Gujarat model. They said, what is special in Gujarat? How can agriculture grow at 10% in a state when India is not growing at 2% in agriculture? What is the miracle is doing? In a state like Gujarat, which doesn't have rains for most of the areas in Gujarat, how is he able to do irrigation for the rest of Gujarat? People wanted to know. People wanted to know for the very first time in Indian politics, how can a politician be non-corrupt? People wanted to know for the very first time in Indian politics, how can somebody for 24 hours, 365 days, not take a single day of leave, keep serving, serving and serving. That was very new to him. Because the kind of politics we have seen, every single person, from the last village in Tamil Nadu to the last village in Kashmir, to the last village in Northeast, they started chanting Modi, Modi and Modi's name. So 2014, he came with a lot of expectation. It is not easy for a politician to come with expectation and deliver. Because that itself is like a monkey on your back. PM Modi came with huge amount of expectation that has never happened to any single Prime Minister of our country. He came with expectation. 9 years later, May 26, 2014 is the time in the evening he took charge as India's Prime Minister. May 27, 2014, he sat in his chair in his office as India's Prime Minister. 9 years later, now 10th year, possibly we're going for elections in another year in 2024, the same spirit that was there in 2014 is still there. The same love and affection, what Modi had in 2014, I would say it has only gone up multiple notches. It has not. It has gone up multiple notches. If Modi in 2014, we all felt he can do no wrong. Now 2023, Modi has become a benchmark for world leaders. How to function in a democracy, how to take people along, how to be non-corrupt. Not only he being non-corrupt, how to keep the cabinet non-corrupt. Not only is the cabinet non-corrupt, but to challenge the other politicians of our country. Just yesterday in Patna, you have seen all people gathering together. You have seen everybody sitting together. You have seen everybody sitting together. And they all have come together. First time in India's history we are seeing. And they are not supposed to sit together because they all got divided for some reason at different points of time in history. The Congress party got divided, Mamata Banerjee came out, the NCP came out, then the Congress party chose to remain focused on Delhi, focused on one family. Then the regional parties came, which were dynasties in nature. Parties like DMK, parties like TRS, they were fully focused on dynasty and focused on corruption. Now, one fine day, they all have chosen to come to Patna and sit together. Therein lies the story. The story is very clear. The story is very clear because they also know the kind of change that is happening in India. In 2024, if BJP sweeps Lok Sabha from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, it is going to sweep. When it sweeps the Lok Sabha in 2024, the idea of politics is going to change. They all know the idea of politics is going to change. The politics, what was there till now, it's going to change. The politics of corruption is going to change. The politics of caste is going to change. The politics of arithmetic is going to change. For all of them, it is the fear of their life which has brought them together in a room in Patna, sitting together, trying to take on one single person called Modi. And there are some leaders like Rahul Gandhi ji. The parliament was fully open to him till a couple of months back to speak what he wanted. And it is a free forum, he can come speak, everybody were willing to listen to him, he can convey his viewpoint. But he chose not to speak there. He decided to come outside the country. Rahul Gandhi ji, we all see his favorite spots continue to remain UK and continue to remain US. This is the place he comes, goes to think tanks, goes to the small institutions that is there, and chooses to address a group of people. Even when Janagana Mana is sung, they chose not to stand. That is the kind of audience Rahul Gandhi ji gets in San Francisco. There he speaks, the democracy is lacking in India, the institutions are collapsing, the institutions are failing, this is happening, that is happening, and every single thing he chose to paint. And very, very unfortunately, and that is the way the Congress is behaving in India. If you look at Congress, what was wrong with the old India is being reflected in the Congress party even now. If you come and see the Congress party in India now, it is purely a reflection of old India. Continues, fails to reform, fails to bring talent into politics, fails to empower people at the grassroots level, fails to fight for the poor and the needy who needs a political party to support them. Still, it's the party of privileged. Still, it's a party of a single family. Still, it's a party of a single road, a single house in Delhi. And now, Congress, along with other parties, have chosen to form a union in Patna, headed by Nitish Kumar ji. His flip-flops are more popular than a circus flip-flop. A circus flip-flop cannot do as fast as Nitish Kumar's flip-flop. Now, 2024, I am assuring you from the British soil, I will leave this country in about 3 days from now. Possibly we all will meet again after the 2024 Lok Sabha election. 100%, I'm telling and going. The 2024 Lok Sabha elections, it is going to give BJP party and Narendra Modi ji, the MPs in Lok Sabha, which is going to be far bigger than any MPs achieved in India after 1947. It is going to happen without a doubt. Why is it happening? Now, why are we confidently saying it is going to happen? Why are we saying confidently this is going to happen in India, this is going to happen? I'll give you the numbers in front of you. Now, after 2014, when Modi ji came in, the kind of things he did is something which we have to see as a person. Europe grew with roads. America grew with roads and rails, a combination of critical infra. It powered the country, which caught the industrial revolution wave. It started inventing technology, lifted millions out of poverty, became global leaders. And they captured big institutions like, after the World War I, the League of Nations, after the World War II, the United Nations. They were able to be there at the right time, right place, capture the big institutions, thereby dictating global politics. But a country like India, after 1947, when a huge disservice was done to us by the political parties that governed us roughly till about BJP became very popular, started bringing this nationalistic spirit inside. India was a big loser, as many of our fine brains left our country. They chose to go to different parts of the world. They were some of our best and brightest. Somehow they felt their talents were underutilized in our country. They wanted to fly, but somehow we made them like a caged carrot. We had a cage, like a parrot, we locked them inside from 1947 to 2014, never given the opportunity to dream at a scale. Now, suddenly we see an explosion in our country. For a country from 2004 to 14, the national highway per day average, like we said, roads drove the Europe's growth. The roads and railways drove America's growth. For a country like India, 2004 to 14, one of the very important times in the world movement, because the whole world was growing at 3%, 4% in that time. The world is growing at 2% now. It was growing much faster in 2004 to 14. When it was growing at that speed, India's per day national highway, what we are laying, was 7 kilometers was the per day. For example, in 2004, the total length of the national highway in India was 65,569 kilometers. In 2014, we improved it to 91,287 kilometers. If you subtract it, if you divide by 365 per day, if you divide by 10 years, per day, our road average was about 7 kilometers national highway we were laying across the country combined. Now, in the last 9 years after Modi ji has come to power, per day, the national highway we are laying is 37 kilometers. 37 kilometers of national highway is the single average every day our country we are laying 37 kilometers of national highway. Coming to the railways. If you look at the railways, When Modi ji came in 2014, the total railways that was electrified, because you can't keep powering railways with diesel engine and coal, the total railway that was electrified was 4,700 rail road kilometer, which is 6.3% of the total railway line in the country was electrified in 2014. Now 2023, the broad gauge route where the major trains fly, the broad gauge route alone, we have electrified 91% of India's broad gauge connection. We have electrified, which was a mere 6% in 2014. From 4,700 rail road kilometer, now the total electrification, we have increased it to 28,800 rail road kilometers. 7 times more railway lines we have electrified. If you look at other simple metrics like broadband is internet powers the world. None of you here sit without internet because your life depends on internet, on the transfer of data. 2014, when UPA ended its power, when Narendra Modi ji took over, India had total broadband subscriber 5 crore and 89 lakh. 5 crore and 89 lakh, 5 crore people had broadband connections at home. Today, in 2023, the broadband connections in India is 77 crore and 13 lakh. Just look at the scale we operate. Look at the speed we do. Look at the transformation effect. Every single thing is happening in our country. Now the national highway has gone up from 7 kilometer average, 37 kilometer we have taken. Now what has happened? The average speed of a lorry that is traveling in India from 18 kilometer, it has shot up to 35 kilometer, which means the goods are moving faster. The goods are crossing the interstate borders faster, whereby it is contributing directly to GDP, because we all know logistics is 13% of India's GDP. Now broadband coming in from 5 crore in 2014, jumping up to 77 crore, everything is laying a huge pipeline for digital transaction. As we said, 105 billion digital transactions India has achieved in the last year alone, 2022-2023. 40% of the world's digital transaction has happened in India. Now again, if you keep looking at the other metrics where our country is progressing. Now, India is a country with 142 crore people. 142 crore, we have just become the most populous nation in the world. We have overtaken China. It means India has to be the global capital of human resource 10 years from now. You can't remain a mute spectator from the world's growth by not empowering your educated people. Now, the number of IITs in 2014 is 16. The number of IITs in 2023 is 23. The number of IIITs in 2014 was 9. The number of IIITs in 2023 is 25. The number of IIMs in 2014 is 13. The number of IIMs in 2023 is 21. The number of All India Institute of Medical Science 2014 was 8. The number of All India Institute of Medical Science at the end of 2023 is 23. The number of universities at the end of 2014 was 723. The number of universities at the end of 2023 is 1,113. If you look at all these numbers, with the extra amount of colleges, extra amount of transformation that is happening, India is all set to become the global capital of human manpower 10 years from now. The best quality engineers, the best quality scientists, the best quality of next generation top minds is going to come from Indian universities, because the universities are at play here, and that is why India has got into the National Index Ranking Framework, NIRF, possibly the first country in the world, which is rating every single college in the world by a single framework. Anybody who wants to enter a college from Kashmir till Tamil Nadu, he just has to go Google, type the college's name, see what is the NIRF ranking. That is, the government of India is giving a rank to every single college in the country. Thereby, we are challenging the colleges at the back end to come up. Thereby, we are challenging the countries at the top end to remain at the top. If you see the number of patent, countries like UK are great because of the kind of brainy people it has got within the country. If you look at India, 2014 to 2021, in a matter of 7 years, the data I have is for 7 years, the number of patent that is filed in India has seen a jump of 572%, is the growth rate of patents. In 7 years, India has jumped 572%. So overall, the picture is very clear. The critical infra is happening. Roads are being laid. Ports, Gati Shakti, at a huge pace, we are building roads. Not only that, if you look at the number of airports, after independence from 1947 till about 2014, for almost 67 years, the number of airports built in our country is 74. Now hold your breath. Last 9 years, the number of airports built in our country is 74. So 67 years we built 74, 9 years we built 74. So India is having 148 airports. The other day a friend was joking with me, what is this? Air India, 6 months back they said we are ordering 470 planes. The whole world said, oh, the single biggest order in aviation history. United Airlines never placed an order for 470 at one shot. British Airways never placed an order for 470. Air India's placed order for 470. All of us felt proud. We were very happy. Oh, 470 planes, single order. Indigo, day before yesterday, they said, what is Air India? I am placing 500 planes at one shot. 500 planes came to Airbus, one shot, delivery is going to happen. Now you see in the last 6 months alone, two major carriers of India, Air India and Indigo combined, they have placed orders for 970 airplanes. Just imagine the pace of India's growth, the unprecedented scale in which this country is growing. Now you have to support them. Airports have to be built. And possibly after 2014, for the very first time, we are using our inland waterways. We have got an inland waterways policy because we want goods to move from part A to part B in India's rivers. This is none other than Ambedkarji's dream. Ambedkarji always felt when he was part of the Viceroy's Council pre-1947, around 1943-44, Ambedkarji was part of the Viceroy's Council. His biggest dream of Ambedkar was to create dams in India, was to fix irrigation canals and systems of India, and more importantly, use India's river to transfer products and goods and services from one part to other by using India's mighty river. Before 2014, goods never got translocated, never got shifted within the country in rivers. After 2014, it is PM Modi ji who decided to use rivers as a major means. A big transformation is, that is why you see in TV, suddenly you see some big vessels sailing in the Brahmaputra, in the Ganges, you see sailing in very big rivers, you see cruise ships traveling in rivers. Because the platform was laid for transferring goods. Imagine a country of 140 crore people. Imagine a country with a natural abundance of resources that India has got. For the very first time, we are tapping into all of our natural resources, including shifting of goods. Now, you just have to imagine. India's GDP is about $3.6 trillion now. And logistics is 13% of it. Now, anything we do in our country, by which we increase the pace of movement of goods. We make railways more efficient. We make ports more efficient. For example, Mundra port is the single biggest, largest port in the world, which carries crude at a capacity which other countries can't even imagine. The ports around the Gulf of Kutch, the 3 ports, it's simply whatever Europe is handling, the 3 ports along the Gujarat coast, the 3 ports alone handle 20% of Europe's ports capacity. The scale in which India's port is transforming is another story for another day. For 2 hours we can talk. Now, reason we are doing it is, just imagine if railways, ports, the airways, the waterways and everything that is right in our country, if we can increase the speed by 10%, if we just increase the efficiency by 10%, which is bare minimum, you see the GDP growing, at a pace that is unimaginable. 7% GDP growth is new to countries like UK, because UK, we all know, is just struggling with 0.5, 0.6%. We just overtook UK to be the 5th largest economy in the world a couple of months back. Now, countries like that are looking at India's logistics transformation. Now, we talk about the digital transformation that is happening. Very silently, there is a logistics transformation that is happening in lorries and ports and everything. Just imagine 5 years from now, all the airports, apart from 148, the new airports become operational. The ports become fully operational. For example, in Gujarat, if you look at the Ahmedabad railway station, it is coming to every single railway station in our country, but Ahmedabad is getting the trial run for it, where one railway station will have the bullet train converging into it, will have the Vande Bharat train going out, will have the city trains entering, will have the normal trains entering. It is more like a hub and a spoke model, which is connected to the airport also by a special shuttle. And this railway station will also have a world-class 5-star hotel inside the Ahmedabad railway station, where you come do meetings. You land in the airport, do meetings, finish the work, take a bullet train from Ahmedabad, Mumbai, which will become operational in a couple of years. So all our railway stations are also becoming reimagined as a hub where things actually happen. No more railway stations are the world one. Now Ahmedabad very soon. Then Chennai is going to be the second. Everywhere it is going to happen. The reason I'm taking a lot of effort to communicate this to you because the papers are not reporting. Or they don't have that vision to see what Modi ji is doing for us. Or probably some of our opposition friends still chose to see India as a country of snake charmers. Still chose to see India as a country that is not confident of itself. That still chose us to see. The other day I was seeing a newspaper article. They said, what Prime Minister Modi ji? When our Jawaharlal Nehru ji went to UK or US also, he got a grand reception. When our Indira Gandhi madam went to US also, he got a grand reception. Why you guys are talking about, my friend Rajdeep Sardesi ji was mentioning this. For certain bucks, he mentioned this, for certain bucks of Modi who think India's history is starting from 2014, Rajdeep used this word. He said, look, when Jawaharlal Nehru went also, the president took him in a car, they all drove. It was all goody-goody. Yes, I will tell Rajdeep ji, yes. When all of them went, the outcome of that visit was, oh, Nehru had a very successful visit. The papers will say, Nehru had a very successful visit because US chose to increase his grant to India by a couple of $1 million. Oh, Indira Gandhi had a great visit because US chose to give a couple of $1 million as aid to India. Or US chose to give free wheat to India. Or US chose to give this to India. Or US chose to give that to India. Now it is not that. Now after this visit, India is getting access to critical technology which was denied to us after the Pokhran blast. After 1998, when the whole country lined up together to deny the critical resource to India, including to our jet engines, to our propulsion systems, to many things that was happening. Now, finally Americans are waking up. If we don't collaborate with India, these guys are going to invent something in the next 4 or 5 years where we will be forced to buy from this country 10 years from now. That is why you see, for the very first time, the Americans have decided to give its engine to Tejas, especially the General Electric 414F. That is a very critical engine which they don't give it to others. They decided to give it to Tejas now. Not only giving an engine, technology transfer, manufacturing in India, that India will do. Or the $2 billion deal where we got the Sky Guardian Predator drone, which we got about 30, which we need now, that critical thing, because India's drone policy is exploding. The drones in India, the policy that is, the innovation that is happening in the drone is simply out of the world, and Americans know he is not selling us for $2 billion. Using this, Americans are trying to collaborate with us in the future drone in the next 5-7 years because India is all poised. The 30 Sky Guardian drones is very, very, very important. $2 billion we get. 14 drones go to Indian Navy. 8 drones go to Indian Air Force. 8 drones go to the Indian Army. Because we need this drone to patrol the high altitude, especially along the Chinese side, the Pakistani side. We need these drones now. Probably our technology will come 4 or 5 years later. America never gave this drone technology even to their closest allies like UK. It chose to give to India now. And not only that, sir, not only that. These are all one important critical hardware, critical infrastructure, critical technology which US chose to give to India. That is one part. The other part of the story is, now the whole world, after the China debacle, the China COVID restrictive norms, the way the democracy is not there in China, everybody knows India is not only going to be the counterweight to China. We are not going to be the counterweight to China like how the Western powers want India to be. Like how Arya sir was speaking here about what the fundamental foreign policy, the independent foreign policy we are maintaining. Because they know very clearly, even you call Modi ji to White House, you say great things about Modi ji, our stand on Ukraine will not change. Because we are very clear, the stand we have taken on Ukraine is for the benefit of our country. Because we chose to have an independent foreign policy by looking at each global issue on a case-by-case basis, evaluating, seeing what is good for our country, doing it. So what is great about India's stand between Ukraine and Russia? Now Zelensky ji or Mr. Putin, from the both sides, They agreed to only 1% in the last 2 years of war to stop the war for 5.5 hours and gave us a window whereby 22,000 Indian students, they chose to go to 5 different parts of Ukraine, to the 5 neighboring countries. We flew them from my state, Tamil Nadu. Close to 2,200 students came, not even a scratch. Now, this is a news for powers, American powers or the French powers or the UK powers. How can a country like India talk to both Ukraine, talk to both Russians, stop the war in the peak of the war, take a window for 5.5 hours, send 5 different cabinet ministers to 5 countries around Ukraine, send our Indian Air Force planes, send Indigo planes, send Air India there, lift them on top. And if somebody thinks this is a fluke, if some Western powers think this is a fluke, okay, it just happened. And Modi ji had good rapport and he had good ambassadors, he was able to get it done. Now the second time, Sudan, middle of war. North Sudan, South Sudan and fight. The Khartoum airport is damaged. People struck. The first lot what we did, we removed most of the Karnataka Haki-Piki friends from there. Along with them, the rest of Indian, South Indian friends mostly. From Kenya, we took them out, we got them into Saudi Arabia, we flew them out. That's how Americans did, that's how most people did. The second is something which no country attempted, even the global superpowers. We still had 300 people struck in Khartoum. Pregnant women, young children, old age people. Now in the old India, we would have left them to nature's devices. We would have said, please pray to God and God will come and help you, something will happen. That is the old India. Now that is why we used a name here, the making of new India. Now in this new India, when India clearly knows that 300 people are struck near Khartoum, there is a fight in the North Sudan, South Sudan, there is no way we can take them out to a neutral country like Saudi Arabia and fly them out. When Americans, 200 citizens were struck inside, Modi told the Indian Air Force, fly in. They said, sir, no runway is damaged, TK land. No ATC, TK land. Use night vision goggles, go there. With a team of commandos we flew in. Pilots were wearing night vision goggles. These are all abilities of a great superpower. These are all abilities that India is meant to do. At the peak of their powers, Russians and Americans would attempt something like that. They will try and do something like that at the peak of their power. This is a country like India operating across continent, operating in a new continent, sending an airplane, getting refueled somewhere in the middle country, landing in the middle of a war when ATC is not there, runway is damaged, taking 300 people into them, 37 minutes the flight turns back, lands in India. But very important is, the Americans told us, the American embassy in India told us, it is not reported in the paper. They said, since you are going anyways, I request you to evacuate our citizens also and bring them back. And for the very first time we are seeing a country entering into another country, the scale in which we operate, we bring not only the Indian citizens, we bring the American friends. So just don't imagine or think that Joe Biden is trying to appease India. Joe Biden ji is watching everything that is happening. He knows the operational capability India is acquiring. He knows very clearly what Modi ji's mind is. So they don't have any other option than to welcome India with open arms, because they know there is this very famous proverb. If you are with me, I am with you. If you are not with me, I will still go above you. So better you be friends with me. So this India is very new to everything. Not getting caught up in the global politics, not taking a stand, taking a neutral stand. When the European Union says, oh, you can't buy petrol from diesel from Russia. India says, why not? What is your problem? He says, no, but we all group of people, we have decided that Russia is in the wrong. Who decided? New York Times and Newsweek decided that Russia is in the wrong. Some editors chose to sit in their laptop and type, Russia is in the wrong, human rights violation. They said, don't buy. India said, we will buy. What is your problem? We will buy because our country is growing. We need petrol and diesel. We can't afford to buy at $110 per barrel. We will buy because Russia is not only giving us cheap, it's a dependable ally for us. Then European Union said, okay, anyway, India is going to buy. Let me come with the second plan. They said, you buy, but don't buy it for more than $60 per barrel. Because if you buy for more money, Russia will come. So, you see the world, the way the global politics is changing. Now, without India, no global issue will get solved. India has to be a part of the solution for any global issue to get solved. That is why in this year of G20 presidency, I'm not sure how many of you have come to India in the last 1 year and you've seen things that is happening in our country on the G20 front. Normally when G20 meetings happen, it will happen in the capital city. Like China, when China had the G20 presidents in the peak of COVID, what they did is, they evacuated one complete city, they moved 5 million people out of the city, they conducted a G20 meeting, one global meeting, finished, bye-bye. PM said, no, the G20 meeting will not happen in Delhi. The final meeting will happen in Delhi, that is a summit meeting. But the G20 meeting will happen across the country. Very first time, a Prime Minister has said, the G20 meeting will happen in Mahabalipuram, will happen in Mysore, will happen in Jodhpur, will happen in Coimbatore, will happen in all parts of India, because the G20 friends have to come and see India for themselves to understand what a beautiful civilizational history we have. And not only that, we have gone one step further. If you look at all the G20 meetings, we serve them millets. We don't serve them, we serve millets. Because this year is the International Year of Millets, because India has proposed, because we are going one step further. We are saying, take millets from our land, make it a part of your eating culture. You will come out of many diseases that is part of it. So now it will be all G20 serving millets. The gifts that we give in G20 is manufactured locally in that town, not from even other parts of India. If it is happening in Bihar, the gift will be a handicraft gift from Bihar. If it is happening in Chennai, it will be a handicraft gift from Chennai. Every single thing we are doing in G20 is Atmanirbhar Bharat. We are doing it in Vocal for Global. Every simple thing is located down. So for the G20, for the very first time, they are seeing the pace of India. That is why the ambassadors who keep coming in G20, the American ambassador was in Chennai a few days back, before the visit. And you know the Chennai press, you know the Tamil media generally. They will take a mic and they want anybody who's entering Tamil Nadu to say one bad thing about Modi, so that they will broadcast it for 24 hours. They tried their luck with the American ambassador. They went and asked American ambassador, what do you think about Modi? He said, it's not only Indian leader, it's global leader. This guy is, what is this? He has come to Chennai and I wanted him to say one bad thing about something. This guy, what about human rights violation in India? He said, what human rights violation? I am living in Delhi. I am saying everything is perfect here. What is your problem? Now, what is happening? For the very first time, all these global powers are moving within the country. They are not becoming Delhi-centric. They are moving to southern India. They are moving to northern India. They are moving to northeast. They are moving to western India. They are seeing what is happening in the country. The feedback flows back to their country. Then their presidents know, oh, this is going to be India's era. The pace in which the infra is getting built, the accelerated progress India is making, millions of people getting lifted out of poverty by the sheer force of Mr. Narendra Modi, by his schemes that he has designed, that is making all the global superpowers to sit down and take notice of our country. Now if I go one step further, sir, again, now, but we want to do it with our culture intact. We don't want to do it like the Chinese way, we don't want to do it with the Japanese way, or we don't want to do the American way. And Modi ji has decided we will do the Indian way. We will do it our way. So right now we are about $3.6 trillion. Now the fourth and third, we have two countries above us. We have Japan and we have Germany right above us, before China. They are within the catchable area. One country is about 4.3 trillion, another country is about 4.9 trillion. So possibly before 2031, we will catch hold of the two countries also. And Americans will be there, Chinese will be there, Indians will be there by 2031. And PM says by 2047, we should overtake them also. But we don't want to earn a label called the world's greatest country in terms of measurement of wealth alone. PM is very clear in many of his speeches. He says, we will do it the Bharatiya way. We will do it the Indian way with our culture intact. Now, one of the greatest indicator of our culture is how we respect our culture in temples, museums, how we preserve our old artifacts, the kind of respect we give. We all know India as a country, the largest number of artifacts looted out of a country in the last 100 years India is the number one country where looting has happened on a scale, unimaginable scale. There was a viceroy in India, East India time. He saw the Taj Mahal. What did he say? How can I dismantle and take it to UK? We have history. But somehow the other guy luckily prevented him and said, no, somebody built it, please don't take it. It is still lying there. But if you see very closely, from 1976 till 2014, the number of lost artifacts that was brought back to our country over the last 37 years till 2013 is 13, 1-3. Which means only 13 artifacts we brought back into our country after emergency till 2013. Now after Modi ji took over, before the US visit, the number of artifacts brought back into our country is 238. 238. Now we got a bumper. Not only Modi ji is able to get jet engines, able to get all the critical infra, like Sir said, Arya ji said, the Americans have said in the meeting, sir, we would like to give back 100 of your artifacts, which is in our museum. We will send it also. In just concluded Modi ji's visit, 100 more artifacts are going to come back to India, which takes the total count to 338. 238 before the American, when 100 comes in, 338. Many of these artifacts, if you see, right up to the Albert Museum in Australia, some of the biggest museums in UK, some of the top museums in America, which was preserved in some wealthy person's home. A Nadaraja was made as a doormat, some lying in rich people's home. Every single one hunted, embassy tracked, suit filed, arguments made, and artifacts are being brought to our country. So not only we are trying to get things done, but what we are trying to do is, we are trying to reclaim our culture. This is the greatness of this government. When we say Modi ji's 9 years of making new India, very proudly we can say the transformation of temples, the litigation issues that we solved right up to the Ram temple, and Lord Ram waiting inside to have a huge consecration to him that is going to happen very, very soon in Ayodhya. And for Ram temple, it is not that, sir. Normally we say, okay, in India, in Tamil Nadu, the state in which I come, Lord Muruga, Lord Shiva, Lord Ganapati. If we go to the neighboring state, we have other Hindu gods. If we go to mostly the northern part of India, we have Lord Ram, and even in the southern part of India, Lord Ram. But what is the greatness about Ram temple? The greatness about Ram temple is, for the collective drive that happened, for the collection drive, that the Ram temple committee, it wanted a voluntary contribution from the public, and they wanted everybody to contribute in making of this temple, which will stand as the symbol for India's cultural heritage for the many, many years to come. Now what happened in a state like Tamil Nadu? The contribution we made for Ram temple by the ordinary citizens of Tamil Nadu, we rank number 2 in the country. The total money that Tamil Nadu mobilized. So we have entrepreneurs in Tamil Nadu, one person who gave a check for 50 crore. We have entrepreneurs in Tamil Nadu, multiple people who gave more than 25 crore. This is the spirit of India. Ek Bharat, Shresth Bharat, when we mention that as Indians, we feel more united. As Bharatiyas, we all feel empowered. The Ram temple is an example. The bell in Ram temple, it was made in Tamil Nadu. And it was a big ceremony for the massive bell that is going to be installed there. It went and rode all the way from the south of Tamil Nadu to Ayodhya. You should see the kind of respect. People stood in villages, people touched that bell, people did puja to that bell, people wanted that bell to go all the way to the Ayodhya temple and get consecrated there. It is not about symbolism, sir. It is about the feeling of unity for the very first time. Very first time from the northeast to south to west to Kashmir. And all of us believe we are integrated together as a whole. That is the magic of this last 9 years, Modi ji. Now again, it's a very emotional moment for us when we talk about Kashmir. Kashmir is one of our crown jewel. Our PM keeps making the statement. The soul of India, the soul of Bharat is in Kashmir. The soul of Bharat is in Tamil Nadu. The soul of Bharat is in Northeast. When all the 3 components of Bharat, when it fires to its fullest, that is when the realization of Bharat is at its maximum. Now for this, all 3 has to fire at its fullest. Now Northeast, we all know pre-2014 how it was. We all know Northeast post-2014 and 2023 how Northeast is. Northeast was seen as some unwanted unwanted state. The junior most minister was given in charge of Department of Northeast Affairs, and somebody will go once in 6 months, once in 1 year, once in 2 years, some minister will go. Modi ji said, every single cabinet minister in his government has to visit Northeast once in 2 months. Every single cabinet minister has to visit Kashmir once in 2 months. 3 months back, he said all his cabinet minister will visit Tamil Nadu in the next 30 days. We had 66 cabinet ministers, all visiting Tamil Nadu in about 30 days time span. So every day you saw 2 cabinet ministers, somebody in Chennai, somebody in Nagarkoil, somebody in Thoothukudi, somebody in Tirunelveli. No, why is he doing it, sir? He is trying to do it because Modi ji completely understands the potential of the 3 states by which the awakening of Bharat will happen. Now, Kashmir. Kashmir now, very confidently we can say, it has reclaimed its identity. In 2022, January 1 to December 31, for the full year, 1.8 crore non-Kashmiris visited Kashmir for the first time. That is the highest after 1947. Now, 1 crore 80 lakh Indians not belonging to Kashmir, they went to Kashmir as tourists for the first time, 2022. Now, this is the first thing that is expected after the abrogation of Article 370. Now, the property that is being purchased in Kashmir is on the rise. Number of property purchased 1 year after Article 370 abolition is 1. Second year, 16. I don't have the data for the third. It is all picking up. People want to go inside and settle. And more importantly, the kind of integration that has happened with respect to Kashmiri laws. For the very first time, the Ranbir Penal Code is out. The Indian Penal Code is in. The SC/ST Act, which was not there in Kashmir for many years, for the very first time, the SC/ST Act is entering into Kashmir. Likewise, the full integration is happening in Kashmir. Now, for the very first time after 1989, the peak of militancy, the number of civilian and army men death in Kashmir is below 100. For information, 89, 1991, it has touched a couple of thousands. 2022 was possibly the safest year for a Kashmir brother and sister and for the army men inside. Very first time the combined civilian death and the army death inside has come down below 100 after 1989. So whichever indicator you see in the country, we can truly and honestly say that Kashmir is reclaiming back its proud and rich heritage and history. Now, coming to the Northeast India. Gone are the days when Northeast India was treated as an unwanted state attached to India. The Prime Minister calls the Northeastern states as Ashtalakshmi. He says all the states of Northeast are Ashtalakshmi to us. The kind of potential Northeast has got is unbelievable. Starting from Assam to Mizoram to Manipur to Nagaland, every single place. For the very first time, the democracy is getting deep-rooted inside. For the very first time, the warring groups are coming to tables. They are talking, except what has happened in Manipur for the last 3-4 months, for no fault of government of India. Between 2 groups, one wanted an ST status, one doesn't want to give an ST status. The court mandated ST status should be given, and all efforts are there to solve the problem. And very first time we can see Northeast is getting truly integrated with India. The potential is yet to be realized. That will also get realized in the next 5 to 10 years. Now, coming to states like Tamil Nadu. States like Tamil Nadu, the only problem we have is a political problem, not economic problem. A state that is firing, a state that is all set to reach $1 trillion. But very unfortunately, the politics of the state doesn't reflect the social aspirations of the state. The society of Tamil Nadu is dharmic.